Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first best of 3 series of week 6 of Wintersplit here in Division 1 of Serenity Gaming as Oldboys take on Hydra. Hydra currently sitting third, while Oldboys have finally got off the marks with a win last time in their last game. Joining me today is Mr. Litzy, and what are your thoughts for today's match?
Well, I do always love watching Hydra play. They have such interesting playstyles. We get to see Monkholm playing the Karthus jungle oftentimes. If we get to see Braveheart play Fiora, we're going to be in for a real treat.
Yeah, and Oldboys just finally got off to a start. They were on 0 points, but they somehow managed to get a clean sweep of against Virgo. And Yorick Mori, who is the new top laner, and Reteb Sativa, who is the jungler, possibly making big changes for Oldboys.
And these are some pretty interesting players as well, especially keep an eye on that Yorick Mori. As the name would imply, plays a lot of Yorick, so if that doesn't get banned out, we may be seeing that come into play. But also plays Darius and Kennen, so there's lots of interesting options there.
Yeah, and before we got into stream, we were talking about Braveheart and what he plays in the top lane. He's played Sejuani a few times, he's played, you know, the common Urgot, but he's also played the flashy Fiora and Lissandra. How important are you expecting him to be in this series?
Well, he never does feed, right? Even if he doesn't necessarily pop off, he always usually just makes sure that the other laner doesn't get very far ahead, and usually comes out on top in his matchup. So if he isn't important, he will at least not be detrimental towards his team, unless we see Yorick just really pop off, Yorick Mori rather, really just pop off and pull that out of the bag. Also, definitely do watch their jungler, Oldboys junglers, because there's a little bit of interest play there. Last time he played, one of his real carry heroes was actually the Rek'Sai.
And Rek'Sai is not a champion you see that often, and he did absolutely pop off on the Rek'Sai. He popped off on the Sejuani as well. And I'm just really hyped for this game, because can Oldboys possibly continue a winning streak now and maybe even take it all the way to the end of the Wintersplit?
Well, they do have a bit of an uphill battle ahead of them. Hydra is ranked currently number 2 in the Division 1 staging. So, you know, this is definitely going to be a tough team. But if they can really pull something out of the bag and continue their trend from last time they played, then if they can get this win, it means that they are going to be one of the strongest teams in this division.
Yeah, and it could also possibly mean a lot as we head into... Would it be Spring or Summer Split come next then?
I think it would be the Spring Split.
Spring Split. So yeah, possibly they could be looking up for Spring Split. And of course, while they may not be in contention to winning it, maybe they have a long shot of making it into playoffs. But the important thing for them right now is to avoid that relegation battle, or to get out of it. And also, if we head over to the bot lane for Oldboys, AC Supreme and AC Madlife, not the most consistent start to the Wintersplit. Can they turn it around? What do you think that they need to do?
Well, the main thing is just the very first thing that an ADC has to do is make sure that they don't feed the enemy ADC. So that is going to be the first thing for them, is just making sure that they don't fall too far behind. And so AC Supreme plays mostly Lucian, a little bit Ezreal, a little bit of Kai'Sa, a little bit of Vayne. So all of your standard ones that you usually see in this league, nothing too crazy. So, you know, I think a lot of it is if he does decide to play Lucian, then you have to pop off early. You have to be getting fed around 15 minutes, or you're just going to not scale anywhere and not do any damage much after that. And then if you're playing Kai'Sa or Vayne, then you need to make sure you stay safe, make sure you play back and just get your farm until you start getting some of your items.
Yeah, and you've mentioned to me again before the show started, Hydra love to get on board with all of the new meta picks. You mentioned before how Braveheart picked the Sejuani when Sejuani top was a thing. What do you expect? Do you expect them to pick out another new thing flashy for this game, or are they going to stick with something more conventional?
I mean, even the Sejuani top is a little bit strange, so mostly because she uses a lot of mana and it's very hard to maintain that mana in lane, but if you bring the right runes, it is a little bit easier. So we may be seeing that, but probably what we're going to be seeing is a little bit of a safer pick, but it is worth mentioning that Sylas is now available in the league, and Sylas has been coming out as more of a top laner, so we could be seeing that this game if it doesn't get banned, but he hasn't been an incredibly strong pick. He isn't as overpowered as most of the heroes are when they first come out, so we may be seeing that, but we probably won't.
Don't say that. I want to see the Sylas. I want to see the Sylas. But yeah, you have mentioned, of course, the Sylas. It could be played. I think all of the previous games, it's just been instantly banned out. So probably going to see that again. However, if a Sylas was to be picked up, what would you expect the opposing team to do to kind of counter that?
Well, there's a few things you can do. One of them is just run characters whose ultimates don't synergize incredibly well with Sylas. So, you know, Sylas is able to steal ultimates. So running something like an Elise, for instance, that ultimate doesn't really come quite in as handy, or running a Udyr as well. Yeah. Those things don't really come in as handy for Sylas.
And the broken thing, of course, about Sylas is you think, oh, he's got AP, fine, he'll take my ult and he'll deal AP damage. Well, I'll just get an AD champion. But no, he's got that conversion factor that converts his AP to AD if he steals an AD ult. So it just makes him that much more disgusting, and his kit just has everything in it.
Yeah, you have your dash, you have your engage, you have lots of damage and a slow, and then obviously the big one is stealing an ultimate. So he does require a whole lot of game knowledge, but a lot of these players, really do know what they're doing. We have Diamond and Platinum players in here, so that is what you want to see.
Right, and we have just headed into the pick and ban phase as Vladimir is the first ban from the side of Oldboys. So again, heading into bans, we've also got the Lucian ban now, so banning out that early AD carry as we're going to head into the third ban, which is Ezreal. So banning out the ADCs for now.
The ADCs are obviously very important, and that Vladimir sort of can be an ADC, but it's also sort of mid pick, and we do know that Hydra's mid player does play a little bit of that, and it's interesting that Hydra is actually the one banning Karthus in this case.
And yeah, Karthus banned out, and of course you have to respect that Karthus jungle pick. It could of course be flexed back to mid, but when was the last time you saw Karthus mid now? Is Vayne going to be banned? And I feel like Riot have come up with a new way. So, do you remember how they kept reworking Rise? I feel that they got tired of it. So what they decided was, we also can't be bothered to make any new AP junglers. So they decided, oh, what we'll do is we'll shove Talir in the jungle, and now we'll shove Karthus in the jungle. So they're just never going to make a new AP jungler.
That almost does seem to be the case, and also part of it was just the runes. When the runes became, what they were, then people discovered different things they could do, and sort of the big one was Predator, and now Dark Harvest on Karthus. So you're able to proc Dark Harvest very easily as Karthus using his ultimate, and when you do have that ultimate, it just gives you extra damage if someone is low, making it easier to execute people. Eventually, you can do incredible amounts of damage with that.
Right, now let's see. We've got the Rek'Sai. We got it. Are you excited for this?
I am excited. I mean, Rek'Sai just goes in on people, and it's a little bit interesting. She has lots of interest in mechanics for vision in the lane and whatnot. So or rather vision inside of the jungle, whatnot, where actual vision is very small, but you have those footprints, and being able to communicate that properly, is the sign of a good Rek'Sai. We're also going to be seeing Thresh and Urgot on the side of Hydra.
Now, we were mentioning before the game, weren't we, that we don't have a lot of faith in Braveheart's Urgot, and we were hoping to see something more spicy, like a Fiora, or even the Lissandra that he has played a couple of times. And as someone in the chat has mentioned, Silas hasn't been banned out yet.
No, he has not, and Oldboys is going to be looking for a top laner if they don't decide to go for the ADC right now. They did pick up the Tahm Kench, so they may decide if they have their support, might as well just go ahead and go for the ADC. Looks like that is going to be the case with Sivir being picked.
So, and of course, Tahm Kench just gives that extra protection to the Sivir against the Thresh. Of course, don't forget, Sivir has got the shield, which stops an ability, which stops any CC, whatever it is coming. She just presses E and nothing happens. However, both the bot lanes are going to be locked in now, so we're going to be having Sivir Tahm Kench from Oldboys versus the Jinx Thresh from Hydra. How do you see that matchup going?
Well, I mean, Jinx is a really interesting pick. We don't get to see her very often, and it's the same thing with Sivir. The main thing to remember is that Tahm Kench gives this Sivir a lot of protection and allows him to play pretty far back, because if Thresh does decide to go, and if Jinx decides, let's engage on this, Tahm Kench can just swallow Sivir and then walk back under tower and spin it back up. Makes it a really defensive composition, so it's going to be difficult for Hydra to really get ahead in the bot lane.
Now, banning out the Yorick as well, giving a lot of respect to Yorick Mori. However, the Kennen and Darius are still available. So do you think one of those will be picked up, or perhaps more of a conventional top laner?
We're going to have to see. I mean, you can never really tell, and with Zoe being banned, it seems like Hydra isn't too worried about any other picks from Oldboys. So if we do see the Darius, Urgot does fare pretty well against him, so it wouldn't be that big of a problem. We may see the Kennen, but once again, Urgot doesn't have to worry about a Kennen too much. It does look like Hydra is going to be picking up the Nunu and Willump, though, for their jungle.
Yeah, Nunu, not a champion we actually see that much in Serenity gaming. We see it a fair amount of times in, your normal queues and stuff, but it hasn't been picked up that often in SRG. So I'm quite interested to see how this is going to work, especially the synergy with a Thresh and Urgot, as Zillion is going to be picked up for the Oldboys mid lane.
It's going to be pretty interesting to see that combined with a Nunu and Willump. Maybe that snowball will go even faster. We were going to have to see. And yeah, the Nunu is such an aggressive jungler, and that is what the meta has been shifting towards, is having junglers who can gank at level 2 or level 3, just get into that lane. And by using the biggest snowball ever, and using the Consume to fill up health very easily, it allows Nunu and Willump to stay healthy inside of the jungle, stay at a ganking capability, and then have a great engage.
And Darius is going to be picked up as a top lane as Jax. So does this mean Urgot's going to be flex picked to mid lane?
It could be, by the looks of it. So a Jax definitely will do better against a Darius than an Urgot. You have just more mobility, being able to ward jump, and Urgot's dash has quite a bit of charge up, and if it runs into someone, then it will flip him over. So I think this is going to be really interesting, but that does mean we're going to have an Urgot mid then, and that's something we don't see very often.
And how do you see this entire matchup then between an Urgot and a Zillion working out?
Well, I mean, an Urgot is very, very tanky, so it doesn't have to worry so much about the bombs, because a big thing about the bombs is if you just get hit by one or two of them as a very squishy laner, then you almost instantly have to back because you've been dropped down to half health. But Urgot is a lot tankier, and you usually do go at least 1 or 2 tank items as an Urgot. So seeing the Spirit Barrage come out is probably what is going to happen.
Could we also see then, if Hydra say, right, we're going to put Jax in the top lane and we're going to shove Urgot in the mid lane, could Oldboys not then just say, right, okay, if you're going to do that, we're going to put Zillion top lane and let's put Darius mid, so we're just going to have our top lane battle in the mid lane?
Well, then what you have to worry about is gankability. Usually in the top lane, you want someone who can escape very, very easily or can fight in situations very well. Darius is pretty speedy, is a pretty fast champion, is able to get away fairly well, and it's very dangerous ganking him because if he manages to get you down low enough, he can execute you and then have the execute reset to get the other. So he has a lot of 1v2 potential. But Zillion up there is going to have to be a lot more careful because the only escape you have is if you manage to land a stun and a speed up on you and theoretically a slowdown on an enemy. You're going to have to choose one of those. So although he can get out of a lot of situations against the Nunu and Willump, won't be able to as well.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in the pre-show, essentially, this game could be entirely about the top laner and jungler for the Oldboys. Both of them new players to the team, and they are starting to turn this around. So how important do you think that Rek'Sai and the Darius will be in their respective matchups against the Nunu and the Jax?
Well, one thing to note inside of jungle is dueling capability. Can one jungler win in a fight over another? And Rek'Sai isn't an amazing duelist by herself, so I think that Nunu and Willump are probably going to be coming out ahead on that. So Chosen would probably have a little bit of an easier time in the jungle, might be able to invade in some cases, but won't be able to be so aggressive as if he was going up against, say, Jax. Or not Jax, Zac. And the Darius is going to be very, very difficult to gank, even with a Nunu and Willump, just because Darius can do as much damage as he does, and the pull can stop Nunu and Willump's ultimate. And they also require being pretty close to the champion that they're on because the root and whatnot requires pretty close range. So that is right where Darius wants you.
Right, so for those people who have possibly, and understandably so, forgotten what Rek'Sai is and what he does, do you want to explain the basic mechanics of Rek'Sai?
Well, Rek'Sai has an interesting passive where whenever traveling around the jungle can burrow underground, and that reduces the vision by quite a bit. You only have a very close area around your champion. But what it does is it will highlight any footsteps that Rek'Sai can hear through the ground. So you're actually able to get pings on where people are through walls and inside of bushes and things like that. So there's an interesting thing where you don't have very clear vision, but you have very well-informed vision of where people are. So a good Rek'Sai player can use that very well. Also, Rek'Sai has an ability to create burrows to go through walls or even just move through an area a little bit more quickly, and an ultimate that allows her to just jump on top of someone just after burrowing into the ground, so you become untargetable and then you leap forward at someone and deal quite a bit of damage.
And I feel this is going to be really interesting to see how this pans out because of the burrows. Rek'Sai, as a result, can move very quickly through the jungle. You might think that she's at her crux, and then 3 seconds later, she's at the mid lane, and you think we weren't expecting a counter gank so quickly. So surely Chosen, who is the filling in as jungler for Hydra. Munkholm is not playing, at least not in game 1. How important is that Rek'Sai maneuverability going to be to counter gank anything that Nunu does?
Well, Nunu is an incredibly mobile champion as well. You can use the biggest snowball ever to just tear through a map very, very quickly. So being able to respond to those situations as quickly as Nunu does. So if Nunu goes top lane, you instantly go bot lane and are able to jump in on top of someone and create opportunities for your team. That's going to be really important.
And again, I do want to go back to this bot lane matchup because it's almost like we've got a really aggressive bot lane from Hydra and then the super safe bot lane from Oldboys. I mean, neither ADC is particularly strong early, and both of them scale up quite well, I think. with the Thresh, if Thresh does land that death sentence, Jinx has the Flame Chompers, and all of a sudden there might be nowhere to go, especially if they catch out the Tahm Kench.
They're going to have to be very, very careful if they try to engage on top of that. I mean, Thresh obviously is a huge engage champion. You have just, obviously the hook, and if you get the hook, then you can flay people closer. But if you get too aggressive, then Tahm Kench can even devour you. So if you get caught out by Tahm Kench, it can be very, very bad news, especially with a Sivir. And also, one thing to keep in mind with the Sivir is that Sivir is an incredibly good team fighting ADC versus Jinx, who isn't quite as good in a team fighting scenario. And that is because of Sivir's ultimate, which will speed up an entire allied team. But one thing to keep in mind is that Jinx is an absolute hyper carry and has a lot of pentakill potential. So in a fight, even if a team is pretty far behind, if Jinx can just get one kill, that can turn a whole fight around, because all of a sudden Jinx is moving more quickly, shooting more quickly, therefore doing more damage, and then can just dive in on a team and deal so much damage and wipe them out. We've seen it happen before in this league, where a team that is a little bit behind, not doing quite as well, can use that Jinx to really turn a game around with just one good team fight.
And again, going off that then, do you think that both junglers' priority will be on that bot lane then? A, to try and get the Jinx ahead, and then if you're Oldboys, to try and stop Jinx from getting ahead?
Absolutely. I think that Chosen will be looking at that bot lane, partially because it's going to be very difficult to gank the top lane and mid lane. Zilean doesn't have far to go to get under his tower, and using that speed boost will get him there pretty quickly. And it's very difficult to gank a Darius. As much as I hate to admit it, playing top lane against him, it is really a tall order to ask for a gank against a Darius. So there's going to be a lot of focus on that bot lane, trying to get Frenzy fed on the Jinx, and waiting until team fighting phase for Braveheart to really be able to do what he wants to do, because that AoE stun is incredibly powerful in team fights.
Now, as we head into game, one thing I would like to mention somewhat is, you've mentioned that the Civ is better in team fighting, but Hydra have a Jax, which, I mean, to me anyway, suggests that they're going to be splitting a lot. But then they've also got an Urgot, so from the side of Hydra, would we be seeing a 1-3-1 or maybe just a 1-4?
I think they're going to adapt to, obviously they're going to adapt to whatever situation they need. If they do need a 1-3-4, they are capable of doing that. But if they need to reposition and put 5 people down to the bot lane, they can do that very, very quickly, very easily, and in a very fluid way. So I do believe that we are going to have a fair amount of split push, because both the Jax and the Urgot are very good duelists. And, Yorick Mori is going to be wanting to be in the team fights a little bit more to get full value out of Darius's ultimate. So it will be fairly easy then to punish that by sending Braveheart into the top lane to just get more farm and to get those towers.
However, watch out for this though, because all 5 members of Hydra are trying to cheese bot, and so all members of Hydra are heading towards... Right, actually, sorry. Again, so we've gone over the bot lane matchup, we've gone over the jungler matchup, we've gone over the top lane matchup, but we haven't fully considered this entire Urgot versus Zilean matchup.
It's a little bit of an odd one, because we haven't seen Urgot mid much since his rework. That was pretty much the only place that he could go before it, and he's sometimes in the top lane, but yeah, nothing. It's been a while since we've seen a Urgot in the mid, but Van Borg is a very good mid player, so if anyone can pull it off, he can. So that is going to be pretty interesting to see how all that plays out. And it looks like for now it's going to be a fairly standard leashing sort of deal. A lot of damage actually on Famju in the mid lane. Van Borg managed to get a good pick there.
And we're going to get a little skirmish as Fiamzu decides to walk up to the mid lane, and Urgot says, well, you're going to take a chunk of damage. But one thing I've just realised is, if you're Hydra, you've got no AP on your team with the exception of... I mean, I guess Jax can build a bit, but Nunu goes more tank than AP, so... Do you see Oldboys just stacking up loads of armor in this matchup?
Do keep an eye on what is happening in the jungle here. A little bit of a fight breaking out already in that river.
And wait, where did Rek'Sai go? He flashed, and I swear I saw Nunu flash, and all of a sudden he disappeared. But that was a nice rotation as well from the Darius to force Nunu didn't flash. Okay, I'm really confused. What just happened?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of question mark pings. Somehow, Chosen was able to get out of there. I'm not entirely sure how he managed to do it, but he did. So, be that as it may, I guess, we are going to be seeing Chosen lose out a little bit on this jungle matchup, but Vanborg is there to provide some support.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It's like that glitch that you saw as Rek'Sai might get caught out now. Nunu's not going to be able to hit him with the snowball. Zilean will slowly get there. Rek'Sai has no flash, and he will fall as first blood goes over to Vanborg.
So that was a great fight there with the Nunu. I mean, being able to put a Rek'Sai behind early like that is going to be great for them, because Nunu does take a little bit to really start getting where he wants to be, although it does provide a lot of just CC value, even if you aren't providing a lot of damage value when you gank the lane. So that is pretty good. Punishing a very risky invade with the kill is what you want to do, especially in this situation.
Right, so apparently it's like the old Alistair thing where when you used to do your headbutt pulverize, you can knock someone up like 1,000,000 meters in the air, and apparently it's the same thing with Nunu's snowball. If you knock them up while they're going with their snowball, it just... Maybe it freaks out, maybe it's a glitch, I'm not too sure, but Braveheart low in the top lane, and he's going to be forced to back, so Darius is going to get a nice little juicy CS advantage.
Nothing too crazy since the teleport is going to be coming out from Braveheart, but that does mean that Braveheart isn't going to have a lot of map mobility now, because if Hydra decides to get drag, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to utilize that very well.
Oh, and Nunu's going to turn up in the top lane as Yorick will die, and Braveheart picks up a kill. So 2 kills over to the side of Hydra at the minute.
That is looking pretty good for them, and we were saying that chances are they were going to do well this match, and this is, what we kind of expected to see, was them being just very, very good mechanically, individually as players, really being able to utilize everything in their kits as they need to.
And it's, as we mentioned beforehand, it's coming... Yeah, so... As we mentioned beforehand, it is going to come down to this jungler matchup. And so far, Chosen has had the advantage so far. Rek'Sai has died once. After that, weird mechanism left Sativa without a flash, and then they picked up the kill. But currently, Jax is ahead, and how is that going to work out as you head into late game? Because obviously, Jax very good when you get to that late game.
And obviously you do not want a Jax to get fed. And one thing to note is that this Jax Braveheart decided to go the culling at the very beginning as first item. That is a very just ballsy move, because culling, you have to really get fed if you want to be able to utilize it properly. The safer pick would have been to get like a Doran's Shield or a Doran's Blade, something along those lines. And, instead going for the culling is going to be pretty risky, but it does seem to be paying off so far, because Braveheart has been able to win this matchup so well against Yorick Mori.
Yeah. and every time Darius tries to hook in Braveheart, he just dashes over to a minion away. It's like, okay, right, I'll wait for that. But in the bot lane, the Sivir and Tahm Kench are so far doing a really good job of just shoving in the wave, and Frenzy's really low and is going to start missing out some CS soon.
Yeah, I mean, and that is one thing that Braveheart is doing very well, is utilizing...
Oh, as we've got a kill. We've got a kill in the bot lane as Frenzy gets caught out by the boomerang. So that is going to be one kill going over to Oldboys.
So yeah, having the the boomerang is a very, very good poke tool, and like we're talking about is that because they do have that very, very good Tahm Kench pick, that they're able to play very, very defensively, and they're able to, in many cases, get ahead, and actually an eat.
And Chosen, is he not? He survived that, as he that was some BMs there from Chosen. He just stood under turret, let himself take damage. And then Madlife going for the flash engage as Vanborg forced to flash in the mid lane. He will get knocked up though by Sativa. Vanborg very low and he's got nowhere to go. That is going to be a kill going over to Oldboys, and it's currently 3 kills to 3.
This is looking pretty even all of a sudden. Oldboys bringing it back a little bit, just right back. I mean, not making sure that they don't get too scared by things, make sure that, just because they've fallen a little bit behind. That was definitely very weird happening in the bot lane, but I mean, hey, it did result in a kill, and a hook onto Madlife is going to mean that he's going to take a lot of damage, but is able to get away fairly easy. It looks like we're going to get another gank in the top lane.
Yep, and Jax is going to leap in. He will get the Counter-Strike stun off. Darius forced to flash, taking some damage. Nunu uses the ultimate. Mori, he does get rooted a second time. Braveheart is going to jump in, one more auto attack, and he will get the kill. Somehow gets out of the turret. The final turret attack did get cancelled, so he's able to escape with his life.
That was very, very close for Braveheart. Really brave move there, but it did work out for him. And while Chosen is getting the blue buff inside of Oldboy's jungle, it looks like Repsativa is able to get the Infernal Drake all on his own, and that is going to be the first Drake of the game for them.
Yeah. And the interesting thing right now is we're seeing a difference in what lanes are being prioritized for ganking. Chosen prioritizing the top lane, and he's in the top lane again actually, as Braveheart will get off the Counter-Strike. Can they get more CC? They do, but they will not follow that. As this is just some dirty proxy farming now from Braveheart, as they force Mori to stay away from the minions that are now entering into that tier 1 turret.
Braveheart is very, very low, so you definitely do have to be careful in this situation. A couple of tower shots, and with Rep there, that is going to be possibly both of them going down. With there, it is both Braveheart and Chosen falling in that fight by just being a little bit too aggressive.
And as I was saying, you Chosen focusing on that bot lane, on the top lane, while meanwhile for Hydra, sorry, not for Hydra, for Oldboys, the Oldboys bot lane has been getting ahead. Sivir 2-0 and 0, Braveheart was 2-0 and 0, but just getting a bit too aggressive from Hydra means that Rek'Sai is now 3-1.
And with the Herald in her pocket, that is going to be a very good start for Oldboys here. You definitely do have to respect the Rek'Sai's mobility, because if you stay in a place for too long, then you're going to end up just getting ganked by Repsativa here with the Rek'Sai. And that's what happened there, was you thought, hey, maybe we can get another kill into Yorick Mori, but never think that you can just get another kill onto a Darius, because Darius can just deal an insane amount of damage no matter how far ahead you think you are.
But look in the bot lane now, because Chosen is here. He will get the CC off onto Tahm Kench. Boomerang Blade, not enough from Supreme. Supreme getting slowed now by the ultimate, and that will be 2 kills going over to Frenzy.
So a little bit of an evening up happening there, and it looks like they're going to be able to get this first plating off on the bot tower.
Yeah, and you just have to respect the Nunu, who can just roll in with a snowball through the lane itself, and you don't have anywhere to go to play around the CC.
And we did miss it a little bit there. Braveheart managed to get a solo kill against Yorick Mori in the lane. Braveheart is just showing an absolute dominance in the lane so far, and it looks like he's going to actually be able to get this tower pretty low before the teleport comes from Yorick Mori.
Yeah, and we did mention, didn't we, just before the game started, that we weren't happy that Braveheart was going to play Urgot. So Hydra said, okay, fine, we won't put him on the Urgot. Here's a Jax for you.
Which is really, really interesting, you know, having someone who, you know, maybe isn't that great against the Darius, not necessarily incredibly weak, but Urgot's certainly not strong against him. And the Herald has been spawned in the bot lane.
And that might be first tier going over, because you do have this battle of turrets, your bot lane tier 1 versus the top lane tier 1, and the Herald will be destroyed. But both top lane and bot lane turrets are on one plating remaining. So it will be interesting to see who will pick up the first turret.
It's going to be, you know, neither lane really wants to leave here, but because Braveheart has 5 plate on his, he's going to go mid.
Mid lane, the Fear Beyond Death lands, but the Zillion got the ultimate. The Chrono Shift will save him. Trying to escape now as Chosen's going to turn up. He's got the snowball. Can they get the CC off? And it will be face tanked by Sativa. Braveheart's really low, but Chosen with the absolute 0 will pick up a double kill.
That was a pretty great ultimate there, just getting right in the middle of him by using Flash and then using the ultimate to get damage onto both of them. Even though Braveheart ended up being the one to get the kill on one of them, that was just very, very good overall. And Braveheart did end up losing, and that is going to allow Yorick Mori to push up a little bit, but you know, there's still 5 plating sitting on that turret, so that turret is not going to be falling anytime soon.
And it has been a really, really scrappy game so far. We've seen skirmishes all over the map. As in now we've got Chosen turning up in the top lane. Will he get a CC? No, he's just going to clear out the minions.
Just make sure that tower takes no more damage than it needs to. Since the platings have fallen, it means that those towers will be taking full damage now. And speaking of that, you know, keep an eye on this bot lane. We're getting another little skirmish there. The side of Oldboys is being incredibly aggressive because there is only 800 health.
It's Vanville getting caught out in the jungle. He tries to get off as much damage as he can onto Sativa. Only 1 second before he has the Fear Beyond Death available. As the Dark Passage almost saves him. But the auto attack from Supreme eventually finds his way onto Vanborg. And that's a kill. As now Oldboys are looking to pick up their second Infernal Drake of the game. Which they do successfully.
So that is 2 Infernal Drakes. That is a lot of extra damage on the side of Oldboys. And with a good hook onto AC Mad Life, but it looks like Frenzy is a little bit out of position.
Oh, both flash from both Frenzy and Mad Life. Of course, Frenzy has to respect the acquired taste, the stacks from Tom Kent, which could have led to a stun. But look at Sativa just sitting in that brush, and Frenzy knows that he's there. And he does pop off the W, and he gets Vision of him.
They're going to have to give up the first turret, so that's a little bit of extra gold going to Oldboys.
But look in the top lane now, yeah. The absolute 0 will get off loads of damage onto Chosen. Braveheart flashes to try to dodge, but the Chrono Shift is gonna save Yorick. And now Chosen very, very low. Can Mori get the kill? He's being really aggressive as Chosen tries to escape. He will get off the CC. Mori, why did you do that? You just had to let the Zillion chase, but instead Mori decided to chase it when he only had about 100 HP. Questionable decision making, if I do say so myself.
I mean, it is sometimes difficult to predict the Nunu. You always forget that consume gives Nunu a lot of health, and if it wasn't for that, then chances are that Mori would have been able to win that engagement. So, you know, that is something that you have to keep in mind, and it's sometimes difficult to. So, if we look at the matchups so far and look at the gold lead, Hydra is coming out ahead with about 2 1,000 extra gold, which is a pretty good lead at just 16 minutes in the game.
And again, we did mention before that Hydra only have AD on their team. Nunu not building any AP items as such, so you would expect, wouldn't you, that Oldboys will have the advantage later game when they can just start building more and more armor items.
Yeah, it can be pretty rough for them. Now, Chosen can decide to go a little bit more AP since they do have an Urgot and a Jax to be the team tanks. That isn't really necessarily required of the Nunu in this case. So I wouldn't be surprised to see at least a couple of AP items coming out from that just to give their team a little bit more of a well-rounded nature. But for now, looks like the bot lanes have both moved up to the top lane. While partially because that tower is just so low, it only has 30 health in the top lane.
And after we've had all of these skirmishes and we seem to be having a nice quiet period, let's just take a look at the KDAs and how all the matchups stand. In the top lane, fairly even in CS, but Braveheart is much further ahead with the kills. Both junglers doing fairly well, but in the mid lane, Zilean is definitely the one on top, 3-1 compared to Van Borg's 1 and 3, as we're going to have a fight in the top lane. And the ultimate, the super mega death rocket will miss from Frenzy, but the death sentence doesn't. Tahm Kench will fall. The fear beyond death will land onto Zilean, but he does have the chrono shift, which will save him, but only for a short while, as he will also fall. That is 3 kills going over to Hydra.
Chosen taking a little bit of extra damage there from AC Supreme, who does seem to be just wanting to go in, but that consume is just doing so much for him while the biggest snowball ever comes out again.
And now Chosen turning that around, but the spell shield from Supreme will prevent a knock-up. But again, 3 kills going over to Hydra, and it's now 14 kills to 9 as they have a 4.5k gold lead.
That is quite a bit of gold for just 18 minutes into the game. It's not the biggest lead we have seen, but it is pretty good. And also 14-9 kills. It was pretty even there for a little bit, but now Hydra is starting to come into their own a little bit, whilst because some of their characters are starting to get the items that they need. As far as that goes, you know, it's stuff like the Urgot now having the Black Cleaver, and the Trinity Force has been completed for Braveheart.
And oh, sorry, as I knocked my notes over onto the floor as I tried to reach to my mouse. What I wanted to say was that Sivir was 2-0 after that, the questionable moment from Chosen in the bot lane. But she's now 3-2, but Jinx is 4-1. And you mentioned that Jinx is such a strong hyper carry, and all the kills are on her, which is exactly what you want to see from Hydra.
I mean, obviously not all the kills, but you do want to see a lot of kills on a Jinx, and that appears to be what is happening now. While there seems to be a little bit of a setup on the Baron, I wonder if Frenzy and Chosen believe that they can solo take this Baron. It seems like they are going to try for it.
And with the Nunu consume, obviously he can just tank that right up and then gain all of the HP back. Now Darius is in the top lane, he's not aware of what's going on. Zilean's gone bot to defend from the Jax. Are we going to see a 2-man level 12 Baron? They're going to do it. They are ripping through the Baron, and that's a 20-minute Baron going over to Hydra. That's insane.
That is a very big power play as Yorick Mori gets knocked up in the top lane.
And Frenzy now just has to get the damage. He's CC'd again. Yorick Mori will fall. Frenzy now 5-1, 850 gold bounty on his head, or her head.
While Oldboys is grouping up in the mid lane trying to push forward and create a good, strong defense, Braveheart is able to push up in the bot lane, just get that incredibly strong split push going through here. But Famju is there to make sure that it doesn't get any further than that. And
he's forced to flash as he does burrow through the Raptor Pit, but so much damage coming off onto that turret. And you don't... Darius still dead as the death sentence will land onto Sivir. Tahm Kench will use a devour, but he's going to die. Sacrifices his life for the ADC, which is what you need to do. But unfortunate there for Supreme getting caught out by the death sentence.
That was a pretty funny interaction there if you noticed it, because the Sivir was actually hooked by the death sentence, but then swallowed by Tahm Kench.
Oh.
And so Threshers continue to go in onto Tahm Kench.
But Braveheart getting caught out in the bot lane. He's been juking as much as he can. He gets a lot of damage off onto Fianzu, but it's not enough. But meanwhile, in the mid lane now, the Darius is going to fall. And could we see the game end right here, right now?
I think for now they're just looking to get this inhibitor, and then they're going to fall back now that champions are backing and getting to where they need to be. And they're going to be looking to go to this dragon, which is currently being taken by Rep Sativa.
And he's only got it down to half HP. All 4 members are going to use a blast cone. He doesn't have any way out. The red, why am I saying the red team? Hydra will steal the ocean and kill Retep Sativa.
That was so risky trying to go for the drag there, because Hydra had left that mid lane. There was no vision on them, and that is why it is so important to have vision inside of your jungle, because if you end up not having the information that you need, then that sort of thing is going to happen to you, and you're going to get dragons stolen away from you over your dead body. And
we've got about another 20-30 seconds left on the Baron buff, so a bit of time to push the waves in for Hydra. As you can see Braveheart in the bot lane pushing that up. Expect to see the rest of the members of Hydra to be in the top lane, as there aren't exactly any objectives left in the mid lane.
I mean, it is all the way through inhibitors, so absolutely looks like we're going to be getting a fight right here in the river.
Yep, and Frenzy, the Flame Chomper's just not far out enough, as you've got Braveheart's going to be shoving the wave into the Darius, so we might see a 1v1. We'll try to keep our eye on that. But the unfortunate thing right now for the side of Oldboys is because Hydra have pushed in so much, there aren't any burrows for Rek'Sai to have, and they're just able to destroy every single one that Rek'Sai has placed over this game.
Very important being able to take out those tunnels as you see them. And while they were trying to push up into the top lane, the whole team of Oldboys is there to respond. And the amount of wave clear that Fianzu has is...
Death Sentence lands onto Mad Life. However, the Chrono Break will save him, but only temporarily, as he will get hit by the Zap. Absolute Zero will confirm the kill for Hydra. And that's going to be the tier 2 turret falling in the top lane.
And with that, it is now the inhibitor turret open. And with Braveheart now looking at the bot lane, getting a good split push there, this could be very difficult for Oldboys to deal with properly.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, you've got the massive wave, the super minions in the mid lane, you've got Jax in the side wave, and then you've got all 5 members of Hydra in the top lane. But they are going to back off now, as Baron's up in just over a minute. Is Drake up yet? No, I think we've got a bit to wait until the next Drake.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while, a few more minutes. And although Oldboys have gotten very valuable Drakes, I mean, the Infernal Drake, obviously, just dealing more damage to champions is very good. It doesn't offset the amount of gold lead that Hydra currently has. 9,000 gold, which means that they all have basically a full item ahead of Oldboys now.
Now, the thing that I feel is really keeping Oldboys in this game is the fact that A, they have 2 Infernal Drakes, and B, the Civic can wave clear so well.
That is the Civic, or the Sivir and the Zillion there are able to just clear out waves nearly instantly, especially because you have the static Shiv up as well. Looks like a little bit of grouping up in the river as another fight breaks out.
Another fight breaks out, but look in the bot lane. Braveheart has done a sneaky round the back. He's got off a bit of CC onto Mori. Will he go full turret dive? Mori flashes. Braveheart's really low. The ultimate comes out and Mori will actually get the kill. 1 kill going over to Oldboys there.
Never underestimate the amount of lifesteal that a Darius has just from passive abilities. It is a easy mistake to make because you think that surely this Darius will die as he does one more hit, but then Darius gets a good spin off and gets a quarter of his health back. So you have to be incredibly careful in that situation. You can't get too aggressive onto a Jax, especially under tower.
And this has turned the entire thing over because it has allowed Yorick to head over to the mid lane to clear that wave while the rest of the team tried to prevent Hydra taking Baron. But again, going back to that fight, I feel like the key thing there was the fact that Darius had a Thornmail, so essentially Jax did kill himself to some extent.
Little bit there, and we're just continuing to get a vision fight over this Baron. Obviously, Hydra wants to take it, but what all of this is doing is it's just buying time, this big long scrimmage, and that means that Braveheart already is up and is going to make his way back down to the bottom lane.
Now, the Drake will be up in a couple of seconds as Braveheart's going to TP right into the fight. The Chrono Break will save Oldboys for just a little bit, but Rective Sativa will die. Counter kill going on to Braveheart as he tried to zone out the rest of the team. Frenzy really low, Super Mega Death Rocket just short of the Zillion, but that is going to be 2 kills for 1. The Cloud Drake is available, however, Hydra will focus all of their attention onto this inhibitor for now.
And with that inhibitor looking very, very low, once again is already dropped down to 3/4 health, there isn't a whole lot that Oldboys can do to stop it. A good stun coming from Framju, but it isn't going to be enough because the inhibitor has fallen yet again.
Right, and now that they've got the inhibitor, they're going to rotate over to the Baron and try to take this. 5 seconds available on Mori. Rective Sativa is alive, and don't forget the Rek'Sai ultimate will be available in about 10 seconds, which gives him some chance, but Hydra are burning through this Baron just way too quickly.
It is falling so fast, and with just 400 health, there it is. That is one great thing about Nudu as well, is to essentially have 2 smites in your kit. The smite from your summoner spell, but also the consume does great damage against large monsters and minions, so using that essentially as a second smite, you want to use your smite and then devour, or the other way around, you're able to secure a objective a lot more easily. But they didn't even need that so much because they were all alone while taking that Baron, and that now they have also killed a Cloud Drake, which is going to give them even more maneuverability when roaming through the jungle and such.
And as you mentioned, that is going to be really important because it just means that, especially for Braveheart anyway, he can rotate from the side lane where he's split pushing back to the team fight a bit quicker. Also, the Ocean Drake, it gives them that bit more sustain when they are trying to siege down objectives. But right now, Hydra are going to shove in this bot wave. They've gone 5 bot. Rek'Sai's just backed and he's coming back into the lane. But let's see this Sivir wave clear because she's going to be oh so important in defending.
And with another fight breaking out, a big stun from Jam here, but it doesn't seem to be coming to any fruition as the fight is just sort of slowly dissipating. But the thing to remember is that Braveheart just wants to be on the split push, and Yorick Murray is able to get a lot of lifesteal from the spin, so it's going to be difficult for Braveheart to really find a good opportunity.
But as long as he keep them away, it keeps the tank away, as Chosen uses the snowball to zone Oldboys away, and the inhibitor turret, is it going to fall? Braveheart's very low, he will jump away, but we're getting a bit of a fight now, but it's just going to be a poke fest for the moment. And it's 2 inhibitors down. So Hydra have 2 inhibitors, they're 11k gold up. What do you have to do if you're Oldboys to get back into this game?
Well, it's going to be rough. I think theoretically the only way to win was if you somehow massacred the next team fight and were able to go and get Baron and make a good push off of it. But otherwise, so far this is not looking very good for Oldboys.
And again, the Jinx is just so strong. 3 of her auto attacks on the Zillion takes about 2/3 of his HP. And again, I am still waiting to see Oldboys start to get some armor items, but nothing's come through as of yet, with the exception of Mori with his Thornmail and Retep Sativa with the Randuin's Omen.
It's going to be pretty rough for them from now on, because essentially they're all capable of 1v1ing anyone in the game, except for, I'm going to say the exception of Thresh, but that's not Thresh's job to be able to get a whole lot of kills all of a sudden. And the big thing to note here is the amount of split push that is happening. It's forcing people away from one fight in order to deal with a person who is about to maybe take a tower or something along those lines.
And Tahm Kench with the Tongue Lash Devour to take away the Baron Empowered Cannon minion, as Chosen is going to get caught out. The Redemption's coming through. Absolute Zero will go off a lot of damage onto Rek'Sai. He will burrow, uses the ultimate, but he will die regardless. That's one kill going over to Hydra now, and we've got a 5v4 as we have a really big wave pushing in through the bot lane.
And with that split push, they have already pushed up through another inhibitor. The only inhibitor that is left is in the top lane.
Mori will hook in Chosen. He takes a fair bit of damage. Still has the bomb on him. But that's a great hook onto Supreme. But the Devour just ends all possible engage. But it will be another inhibitor turret falling and an inhibitor as well. Braveheart does get hit by the stun from Zilean, but he will be able to escape. All three inhibitors now missing. Actually, the mid lane inhibitor has just respawned, as I said that.
So, I mean, sometimes you just gotta stall out until your inhibitors are back up, but so far, Hydra has been showing a lot of dominance in this game. You know, pretty much they've won every lane now. Pretty much any of them can win in a 1v1 against their counterpart on Oldboys. So this is certainly looking very, very good for Hydra in this case.
As right now, Chosen just going to clear out some of his they're just going to clear out the jungle, and then I'm sure they're going to get straight back to sieging in, because there are no inhibitor turrets remaining. So it's going to make it much easier just to siege this and force maybe those Nexus turrets down.
This is looking so good for Hydra here. They have been able to really just pop off, and that is what you expect from number 2 inside of the league versus one that's not very high up on the rankings at all. And while they take yet another Cloud Drake, that means that they are now ahead in drags and obviously ahead in objectives. 9 towers to 65,000 gold to 54,000 gold. That is a really big price difference as well.
And as you say that, the Baron has just popped up through his little wormhole, and can Oldboys actually contest this Baron? They're going to try, I think.
But it's really just a bait for Hydra to get a good fight. Braveheart, though, is very, very low while he tries to escape.
Yeah, and Oldboys have successfully stopped the Baron. Will they start it themselves, though? I don't feel that they can. They have to respect the super minions coming in through the bot lane. Now, Braveheart does have TP available. So is he actually going to try to TP? He is. He's TPing in. Can Rek'Sai cancel the TP? He can't. We've got a fight happening around the Baron pit, as Yorick Mori is going to fall. Super Mega Death Rocket will miss again. Supreme will get out of there. The fight is over. But one Nexus turret is down. Braveheart will escape. He'll pick up the inhibitor as well. And the counter strike almost saves him from Sativa. But Sativa will pick up the kill. However, this has meant that Hydra can just four-man the Baron now. No one from Oldboys is heading over to contest this. So this will be of 4 members of Hydra getting that empowered Baron buff.
And there it is. They have the Baron, and this could be the last push. They have taken down 2 inhibitors just a little while ago, and although one of them has respawned, another one that did was promptly destroyed afterwards, so it still has plenty of time. So now we can just get a good split push from Hydra, and they should be taking the first match of this round.
Yeah. It is an open Nexus right now. So again, all they have to do is the same kind of thing where they force a fight and then get Jax to TP into the backline. So Oldboys have to constantly be aware of this now and just always have one of their players, presumably Mori, just staying around the Nexus just in case there is a ward in the Nexus, which Mad Life has just spotted and has cleared. However, you do have to constantly make sure there are no wards because the Jax can TP. TP won't be available for a while though, but Van Borg does have the unsealed spellbook, so that can quickly change. However, Nunu is going to get hooked into the fight. He's tanking as much as he can. He has the absolute zero, but the Devour will cancel the ultimate. Mad Life very low. Van Borg will get healed from the redemption. Chosen will die from the ultimate. It will reset for Mori. Can he get off another swing? No, he can't. The Fear Beyond Death will land. It's an ace for Hydra, and Hydra will take the game as Braveheart was in the back line and would have taken the Nexus regardless of what happened in that team fight. Whew. That was an entertaining final minute.
That is how it goes with 1 minute, or rather with just so much left for them. I mean, let's look at some scores here. 14-28. That is a really, or 14 kills for the side of Hydra versus, or rather 14 kills for the side of Oldboys, 28 for the side of Hydra. That is a really big lead. That is twice the amount of kills.
One other thing I would like to mention is, if you look at Oldboys, 14 kills, but only 17 assists. However, for Hydra, 28 kills, 58 assists. They have double the amount of assists, which just indicates how much more team fighting they're doing, how much more grouping up they're doing, which is eventually what won it for them. Sure, they lost to Infernal Drakes at the start, and it was looking like an iffy start to the game. But after about 8 minutes in, they just turned it around and they were in complete control of the game from that point onwards.
So we're going to have to see if they could pull that off in the second game as well. We're going to go into a short break. See you guys then.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this best of 3 series between Elf, DK, Oldboys and Hydra. Hydra took game 1 fairly comfortably, and let's see, what would you like to see Oldboys do differently for game 2?
So one thing they have to do is they have to make sure that they don't just play Hydra's game. Obviously, we've seen now is that on a sort of basic mechanical level that Hydra can just play Legal Legends a little bit better than Oldboys can. You know, that's kind of a rough thing to say, but that is what we're seeing. So what they have to do in response is they have to make sure that they're playing a different game. They have to come up with something in order to specifically counter Hydra. The problem is that Hydra does a really good job of playing these more unconventional picks as well. You know, we just saw it, the Urgot mid and Jax running Culling in the top lane. They're just really confident in themselves so far that they're able to do everything that they need to.
And guys in the chat, get that chat lit up for game 2. What do you guys think? Are we going to be seeing the game end at 2, or will we be going to a third game? We have just entered the pick and ban phase, so let's see who Hydra will ban out first.
We are getting into the pick ban tool. For some reason, I don't seem to be in it quite yet. It is still loading for me, so you're going to have to walk me through what's going on.
Right, so Hydra have just banned Lucian. They did do that in game 1, I believe, so constantly giving respect to the Lucian early game potential, as Vladimir is banned from the side of Oldboys. So the pick and ban phase so far is exactly the same as it was in game 1.
Which is pretty interesting. Hydra is now looking at their second ban. They're just hovering it for a while, haven't quite decided, debating it. It might be the York again. They're actually going to be looking at the Rek'Sai. So that's a little bit of a nod to the jungler from Oldboys. I mean, Rek'Sai was doing pretty well. There were a lot of cases where they weren't able to do what they wanted to because of the Rek'Sai.
I think Sativa was 3-1 at coming out of the early game, and then it all went downhill. So Hydra were just saying, we're just not going to give you any chance at all, as Ezreal banned out from Oldboys, and we enter the final couple of bans now.
So the Ezreal being taken away, and now Hydra looking at their last ban for this banning section before we start seeing a couple of picks. So they're once again just hovering it for a while. They're trying to think of what they need. It doesn't look like they're actually going to ban one. That I guess they just couldn't decide. Where Oldboys comes in and bans away the Nunu.
Giving a lot of respect to Nunu, again, caused a lot of havoc for them in that last game. And I understand why they've banned it, but the power ban coming out from Hydra saying, you know what, we've banned all the chances we've needed to, but we're not going to ban anything else now. Just take what you want.
It's a little bit interesting. We'll see if they, if that's just going to be that ban. If they actually do ban 2 more, we're going to have to see. Where Oldboys is looking for their first pick, they're going to be going Morgana, which means that they're probably going to be going a Kai'Sa as an ADC to pair with it, or possibly a Caitlyn.
I mean, the Morgana makes perfect sense. I was about to mention it, and then they picked it before I could explain it. But yeah, if you've got a Thresh, anything with an engage, just take yourself a Morgana or an Alistar, and there's the engage gone. And so, Morgana makes a lot of sense to me, just because of the Black Shield, as Sejuani will be locked in for Oldboys.
So that's going to be pretty much to see whether or not the Sej is going into the jungle or into the top lane. And it looks like Hydra decides to pick the Caitlyn, and that's part to take away that synergy with Morgana, and partially just because Frenzy does play a fairly good Caitlyn.
Yeah, they were hovering over the Civic, considering sticking with the bot lane that won them, well, that assisted in winning the game in game 1. So they did decide in the end to take Caitlyn. Now I would like to see Oldboys take a Draven. Draven Morgana can be absolutely disgusting, as Xin Zhao is locked in for Hydra.
So Xin Zhao, an incredibly aggressive early game jungler. That means that they are going to be looking to get ahead soon. We may be seeing, if they do what they want to, we may be seeing just a really quick, possibly like 20-25 minute game where it looks like the Tristana is being picked up by Oldboys. So this is pretty interesting, where Hydra is going with a pretty early game Xin Zhao. Oldboys is now picking up a really late game Tristana, and Sejuani is more of a mid to late game jungler or just champion in general as well.
This is going to be really interesting then to see how it all works, because as you mentioned, Oldboys have got the late game champions while Hydra have the early game. Caitlyn can be an absolute monster early game with the every 6 shots being a headshot, and Xin Zhao of course another early game jungler. So it's going to be interesting to see then if Hydra will go for a complete early game team or whether they'll maybe put in a late game top laner like the Jax again.
Yeah, it looks like there was a misband there. Maybe we'll see that in the chat or something, that they actually meant to pick someone we'll watch for the. And Syndra, if you look at what Vanberg plays, very reasonable for that to get banned out. And the Zoe and Zillion being banned away by Hydra.
Oh, Kennen. Kennen's been locked in for Yorick Mori. We know that he's played a Kennen before, and that Kennen is what got the clean sweep against Virgo in their last match. So I'm glad they've picked it up, going to something that works for them. So we haven't seen who Braveheart's going to be playing. The Sylas is still available, and I feel like Sylas would work with every single one of those Oldboys ults right now, as Fiora's going to be locked in.
So that is going to be fun to watch. We know that Braveheart is a very good, very aggressive Fiora, and eventually could just get to the point where he'll be able to 1v1 anybody in the game, and possibly even 1v2 using the ultimate. So a very high mechanical skilled champion, and the Orianna is going to be the final pick for Hydra.
Give us a Sylas. Give us a Sylas. Right, okay, yeah. Orianna in the mid lane, and I do like these champions from Braveheart. 2 split pushing champions, the Fiora, the Jax. Lots of 1v1 potential, lots of split pushing potential. So I want to see Hydra synergize with that entire playstyle once again.
I mean, as much as I would love to see Sylas, where would he actually go in this case? Like, mid lane, he's just not that great in the mid lane. And there is the Kassadin coming out, so that's going to be pretty fun to watch. Will be a fairly good pick against Orianna, since you can use the Void Walk to get away from the ball and Orianna's ultimate if you have to, and can close that gap pretty well.
Right, so as we will head into, well, the pick and ban on the client itself, what are you especially looking out for in this game?
Well, watch Hydra. They're going to be incredibly aggressive in the early game, but Oldboys will not be able to respond to it very well with a Sejuani, who really needs to get a little bit later in the game before she can really start doing what she needs to do. So just keep an eye on that. If Oldboys gets too aggressive in any lane, then you're going to be seeing the Xin Zhao rushing in there and doing what he does. But at around 20 minutes, they're going to fall off a little bit. The Xin Zhao obviously won't be able to do as much, but that is the part where Fiora and Orianna start really coming into their own. So they have a little bit of a fallback plan if they can't end the game early. Whereas Oldboys, they are really heavily relying on that late game with the Kennen and the Tristana and the Sej. These are late game champions, so they are going to have a really difficult time in the early game. But if they can survive it and make sure that Hydra doesn't get fed, then they could pull out this game in the end.
And again, going back to these junglers, the Sejuani, sure, she has some gank potential, but she really comes to life 6, whereas Xin Zhao has a lot of gank potential pre-6 as well, doesn't he?
I mean, he usually is ganking at level 2 and level 3. Just get a buff, you get your red buff, you get drugs maybe, and then rush in there, or you maybe do it the other way around. If you're in the top lane, you get your blue and Gromp and then go into the top lane to gank. You have to be very, very wary of the Xin Zhao, but is not nearly as powerful in the late game as Sejuani is.
And again, going to this bot lane then, Tristana Morgana versus Caitlyn Thresh. Which one do you think should be the better matchup?
I am going to say that the Hydra matchup will be better in the actual lane. You know, Morgana is a very defensive pick and is very, very good against Thresh, but if the Black Shield can be baited out properly, then Caitlyn has some CC to her name as well. So I don't think that the Morgana will be all that they need. They're going to have to make sure that they use the Tristana jump very, very conservatively. Make sure that they don't use it too early or try to use it to engage, because if they do, they could end up being put in a pretty risky spot.
One thing we should also mention on top of that is, although Morgana has a Black Shield which will stop the CC from the death sentence of Thresh, it doesn't stop Thresh being able to dash towards Tristana and then getting off the box or even the Flay.
Because that W does take you over the box, then, like I said, it is a very good escape in this situation. So, like I said, you have to make sure you use that very conservatively. If AC Supreme ends up using that as an engage, then that could end up being the end of the game for them, because then you can't escape the box, then you can't escape the Flay.
And then again, this is where you're going to start seeing your Kassadin coming in really important. He has that chase potential with the ult. Once he gets past 6, you know, your ult's on almost sometimes less than a second cooldown. You're just going to be able to keep on chasing, keep on escaping. Whereas Orianna, if she can get a really nice pick, she can get off a crazy ult that can massively turn this fight.
Yeah, so this is going to be pretty interesting for Oldboys. They're just looking to stall this out as late as they can. They do have that Kassadin, and Kassadin is an incredibly powerful assassin in late game. Once he starts getting some of his items and is able to really get that AP damage that he wants, because then he's able to, like you said, just teleport in and get behind a team, get into their backline and do a lot of damage, and is able to escape when he needs to. And with the runes being what they are, he has become a little bit better, because you can get a lot more mana, partially thanks to the mana flow ban rune, using that to just get yourself so much more mana in the game so you can use that ult more aggressively.
I also want to take a quick look at one final thing, which is, on the side of Oldboys, you only have one AD source. I mean, Kennen could go AD, but it's highly unlikely. So, Tristana is the only AD source. If the bot lane of Oldboys gets shut out, they're going to have no real AD source from this, and then possibly no real damage source either.
Yeah, just some good building on the side of Hydra will make that whole composition not quite as effective. So that is where Oldboys' plan does seem to fall off a little bit, because in the late game, then they'll be able to get just armor to counter AP and then be pretty good, because then the only thing they have to worry about is Tristana. But to be fair, Tristana is definitely something you do have to worry about, because just the amount of damage that she can do in a team fight.
Also, if we look at this entire kind of team fighting potential, from the side of Hydra, sure, you've got a bit of team fighting potential. Orianna can put the ball on top of Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao can engage, and then Orianna presses ult, and all of a sudden you've got a really nice team fight off. But I feel like Oldboys have a much more disgusting comp, in the sense that if Kennen does a normal Kennen, which is dash in, get off the slicing maelstrom, stun 3 people, then all of a sudden you're going to get Sativa on the Sejuani getting off the glacial prison on someone. Tristana's going to be dealing lots of damage from the backline, can get off the explosive charge, get it up to max stacks while everyone's being CC'd. Not to mention that it's going to be really difficult to engage on the Tristana, because she has the rocket jump, she has the black shield available to her. So I do feel like if we get to team fighting, Oldboys should be able to get out on top of this game.
So this is going to be interesting. The main thing to watch is Fiora's or Braveheart on Fiora. If he's able to do what he wants against Kennen, then he's going to get fed. And if he gets fed, then they're going to win. Because Braveheart's Fiora is massive. So keep an eye on that. That's probably where we're going to be seeing Chosen go at the very beginning. Is going to be looking to just get up there and get Braveheart a kill early on, so that they can start getting that carry that they need in order to win the game.
So we will definitely keep an eye out on Braveheart versus Mori once again in the top lane. Do you reckon we're going to see a very skirmishy game like we saw in game 1, where there were just kills flying all over the rift for the first 5 minutes?
We're going to have to watch, because like you said, this is just a really, it's a bit of a risky play from both sides here. You have that sort of early game with maybe a little bit of fallback, but maybe it won't be as strong early as you want to, and you won't be as strong late as you want to. Whereas Oldboys is, you know, they're putting their cards down, they have their hand, they're going to be going for a late game. So now Hydra, they really have to call this bluff. They have to make sure that they are able to get what they need really early on in the game, and make sure that Oldboys don't get the resources that they need to pop off, because if they do, then they absolutely will.
Right. So I've got a question for you, and a bit off topic now. What do you think of the new loading screen?
I think it looks much cleaner and much more modern. It's a little bit weird that I have to click on people to see their masteries. That's really the only problem I have with it. But beyond that, I really don't have an issue with it.
Okay, so without clicking, we're going to play a little game, right? Which is called Guess the Mastery. How many mastery points do you think Chosen has on Xin Zhao?
Well, never mind. I didn't get the.
It was 0. It was somehow
Was it
0. Yeah, it's 0. How does he only have 0?
Well, he's either played Xin Zhao on another account and is just confident in his skills, or he's been reading up and maybe he was just told, like, hey, play Xin Zhao. And this does remind me of a moment a long time ago in the international, like 2014 international championship. One of the players, Fear, I believe it was, actually played a champion for the first time in a league and absolutely popped off on him. So we could see something like that. Who knows?
Fair enough. As Hydra are going to do what Oldboys did in... No, they're doing what they did in the last game, which is throwing all members forward towards the top lane. Now, the question is, will Oldboys be wary of this? They were last time, and look at this. Right, can Thresh get off the death sentence? Kennen's got nowhere to really go, and the dash is going to come through, but Mori's forced to flash. So they burnt one flash, they're all going to back off now, and... I don't know, get back to their starting positions.
That was a pretty worthwhile trade, and now Chosen is going to be going for the blue buff. Braveheart and Vanborg will be there to help if they have to. And meanwhile, the ward was put down on the red buff. Now there actually looks like Chosen will be going towards the red buff. It is going to be spawning very, very soon. And Frenzy and Spiller will be able to get there just in time to get that leash.
Absolutely perfectly timed by Hydra. And I feel that Spiller on the Thresh was just too soon with the death sentence. He didn't need to. He could have waited, and I feel that they would have been more likely to pick off a kill that way.
I mean, Kennen is very maneuverable when he uses that ability, and it is a lot harder to hook. Maybe if he had just assumed that there would be someone in the tribush and just thrown the death sentence, then maybe that would have been good. Or, like you said, waiting a little bit longer. One of those needed to happen, as it is.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
hindsight is a beautiful thing, and I always seem to see better that way. But that is just how it goes, where just a little bit of trading is happening in the lanes, where they're trying to get, you know, that advantage, that early game advantage that you want. Well, we seem to be.
Oh, that's a great
here.
death sentence in the bot lane that lands onto Supreme somehow. That went through about 3 enemy minions. I don't know how he did that, but Supreme gets chunked down a lot and he's down to half HP now.
And I was watching what was happening in the river. You missed it. There was a ward in the in the river bush there, and that gave Chosen the information that he needed. And Repsativa decided to say, like, well, you know, I'm sure that Xin Zhao is not here. I may only have half health, but I should be able to take this scuttler in time. And absolutely not. Chosen was waiting there in a bush and was able to just charge in and take him out just so quickly. And Repsativa didn't even have the chance to flash, and chances are he probably shouldn't have tried to, because he probably would have died anyway.
Right. Supreme getting chunked down even more in the bot lane. He's so low right now. One death sentence could end this. I'm interested to see actually, Supreme has not put her second level in the rocket jump, so doesn't have that little bit of maneuverability that would have been extremely important for her otherwise.
Deciding to go instead for the poke is a little bit interesting, especially when going up against a Thresh, but that's just the decision they made, and it won't really matter really soon anyway. So, you know, I don't put a whole lot of stock into that, just because chances are 2 minutes, well, we'll have W.
I'm just going to direct you to the current CS discrepancy between the bot laners right now, because Frenzy has double the CS, plus Supreme is going to miss out a fair few CS right now as Hydra shove in this wave. So things aren't going well for the bot lane of Oldboys, and Xin Zhao has taken first blood, which is exactly what you want, as he's looking to get caught out in the jungle. He dashes over to Mad Life. Will he be able to escape? Is the Dark Binding available? No, he's able just to take the Dark Passage, and he's out of there.
And there is a just barely missing Arc Supreme there, but the Black Shield was up anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. And, you know, let's take a quick look over at the top lane. A little bit of trades happening there, but they're pretty even. And yeah, like I said, the CS discrepancy is 30 to 15, twice as much CS for Frenzy here than Supreme. So that is quite a bit, and that's what you want to do, is make sure that the Tristana is not getting farmed. It's going to mean less items, going to mean less fed Yordle in the late game.
And in the mid lane, Vanborg doing a really good job at the minute, taking advantage of the Kassadin weak early game. Currently 14 CS ahead, as Kassadin has just TP'd back to late. Orianna doesn't have TP available to her. She went with the barrier, which I guess is kind of understandable when you're playing against an assassin.
You do have to be incredibly careful when going up against an assassin. If you fall a little bit low, then you need to make sure that you back and get your health back up, or find some way to play very defensively, because that ultimate will be gotten pretty soon by Shamzu. And, you know, Vanborg just decided that he'd rather be full of health when the ultimate is learned.
Right, now look in the top lane, because Chosen is going to try to get the gank off onto Mori. No, they will go for the turret dive. However, Chosen is CC'd on the turret. He'll dive. Braveheart will pick up the kill, though. 1 for 1 in the top lane.
Just decided to tank those extra tower shots while Braveheart got the kill. You know, the ultimate was, you know, procced by Braveheart, and that was almost enough to keep Zinja alive, but just not quite enough. You know, it is a fair amount of healing, but it does take a while, and the tower shots obviously do a lot of damage, especially at this level.
Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Sativa trying to come in for a gank, but Thresh is just like, well, I've got something called a Dark Passage. Good luck getting my ADC. I also just want to say, can I just say this? I'm going to put this out there. Spiller is amazing on Thresh. He has landed some great death sentences so far in the bot lane. I just want to say that, because they've been absolutely magnificent to watch.
I mean, that is the sign of a good Thresh player, is being able to get those off. And also, we've been seeing some great dark passages there. Right now, a fight inside of the jungle is broken out.
And Chosen trying to get off the counter jungling, but Mori just says, well, I can do something called rotate, and I'll take that kill, thank you very much. This will make it much easier to lane against Braveheart's super aggressive Fiora.
It is now 2-1, and with even CS, it means that is very slightly ahead in gold, but there isn't really much of an item difference between them currently, because Mori hasn't been able to back and make any real use of that extra gold. One thing that's interesting to see is that culling is back on the Braveheart Fiora as well. Just like we saw last game on Jax, just knowing that he's going to be aggressive, knowing that he's going to just play incredibly hard, and being confident that he'll be able to get kills without dying.
One thing I want to point out is something that I've realized against in the bot lane. The command shockwave from Orianna is going to be really hard for her to hit just because of how often the Rift Walk's available. I'm looking at it now, it's currently on a 5-second cooldown. So she has a very narrow window to actually get that shockwave off between those Rift Walks. So watch out for that in the mid lane.
It's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. For now, let's take a quick look over at the bot lane. Continued aggression from the side of Hydra is going to mean that Oldboys, they have lost quite a bit of health on their turret. It is already down one plating, and it is almost down another, which is going to mean even more gold for Hydra. And if you look at it, they are 1,000 gold ahead currently.
Right, Chosen turning up in the top lane. Vanburg trying to steal the blue buff, but is unsuccessful in doing so. The thing is, you can't exactly gank Mori because you've got the Slicing Maelstrom, you've got the E, which makes you untargetable, and he's just going to use the E and get straight back to his turret, and Chosen will die. Chosen gets CC'd in turret range, and that's just like easy. Thank you.
That was a little bit aggressive. You do have to keep in mind that the Kennen has some really good stuns in his kick. You had to respect that, and I feel like that was not really respected there. And now Mori has 2 buffs and will be able to sustain this lane much better now.
Frenzy getting off a lot of damage. Actually played that really well. Ace in the hole will come out, brings Mad Life very low, but Chosen just playing way too aggressive as the Rift Walk from Flamzu gets Vanburg really low. Will he be aggressive? He could get off a flash Rift Walk if he really wants to. No, he's going to sit back. He's just going to push this wave in and then back himself.
Looks like for now he's actually going to be staying in the lane and just getting that CS, where Chosen is looking for the top lane again, trying to get his buffs back.
He wants revenge. He will not stop ganking until he gets a kill onto Mori. And it just keeps failing. But Spiller with the flash flay, he gets the Morgana. And that is a kill going over to the Caitlyn.
I mean, it looks like Hydra's bot lane doesn't even need the gank, so it doesn't matter that there is so much pressure in the top lane from Chosen. Now that they have gotten that Morgana down, AC Supreme is going to have to be very, very careful, and chances are we'll have to back soon, and that means that it's going to be a free plating for the side of Hydra.
Now that we have that beautiful thing called hindsight, I feel that Oldboys have actually played this draft really well, because they saw the Xin Zhao was picked up, and then they said, okay, if you're going to pick up Xin Zhao, we're going to take all 3 lanes so that it's super hard for you to gank. You can't gank a Kennen, and Chosen has tried to gank the Kennen, and he has died multiple times. You can't gank a Kassadin post 6, and you can't gank that bot lane. So this is making it really difficult for Chosen, and all he's able to do as a result is farm and invade. And when he's invaded, he's died because the other lanes have been able to rotate really well.
Xin Zhao is a bit of a risky pick. It's all just about that aggression in the early game. And, it maybe doesn't matter if he does die sometimes, because chances are he wasn't going to do damage past 25 minutes anyway. So mostly focusing on Braveheart and just trying to get Braveheart to the point that he's going to be able to do just insane damage and be able to duel people properly.
But in his attempt to do so, he's got Mori, so far ahead, to the extent that Mori has completed his item before Braveheart was halfway to his first item. So now it's just really difficult for Braveheart to lane. He had a big CS advantage, and now it's only 10 because of the fact that Mori is now ahead.
And if we take a look at this, Repsativa is wanting to get into that lane, but you know, because Braveheart is sitting under tower, it's going to be really impossible to do because the riposte is up, and you know, it's really difficult to dive if you're when the riposte is up, because able to parry any sort of stun and possibly will stun you under the tower.
Okay, Braveheart starting to push up. However, he's going to back off. Now, Chosen is really close, but obviously he doesn't have vision right now. He's going to scan for wards. Are we going to see a jungler 1v1? No, I don't think we will. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, just a bit of poking. So, it's been a fairly quiet game so far.
And it probably would have been a 1v1 anyway, because Mori seemed to be really eager to get in there and help. And now it looks like a fight could be breaking out. Oh, while the Glacial Prison does miss.
The thing is, I don't think they could have followed on that anyway. Sure, Fiamzu could have turned up, but Van Borg was really near, and if Fiamzu decided to rift walk, I'm sure the shockwave would have come out from Van Borg, and he might have even picked up a kill or double kill there.
It was definitely very risky if they did decide to go for it, and they did decide, well, possibly because the Glacial Prison did miss a little bit of damage on Van Borg while the rift walk comes out, but Van Borg is able to trade very, very well and actually come out very slightly ahead. While it looks like the Rift Herald is going to be started by Repsativa, but Chosen is pretty close by, just finishing up the blue buff, so it's probably going to try and respond to that.
Yeah, he's turning up. I think Braveheart and Mori are both rotating over. Chosen is now on it as Sativa dashed over the wall. But I think Chosen is going to have to leave the Herald. I don't think... We might see a 3-on-3 skirmish here.
Van Borg definitely does want to help here. May decide to pop the shockwave there, decides not to. While we may be seeing a fight break out, Braveheart now is coming down to help.
And the thing is, if you are Oldboys, you don't know where Braveheart is. If he's heading over, if he isn't. But it will be a smite fest. And... Oldboys will get it. Slicing Maelstrom will come through. That picks up one kill. Fiamzu's really low. But Kennen, can he get the double kill? He just about does it. He's so low. He manages to pick up the Rift Herald with the flash. Braveheart unable to get the kill. That actually, there is no shutdown gold. How is there no shutdown gold on the Kennen yet? He's 5-1.
Does have one death, but that was a long time ago. That does seem a little bit weird that there isn't the shutdown gold. But that's just how it is, I guess. But that was a great play from Mori. He's prioritizing the Herald, just going to take that as soon as possible, and just getting out. News, hey, I cannot stay here. If I stay and fight, I am incredibly low, and I will die to Chosen, who will be able to just burst me down with a combo. So definitely came out ahead there with a couple of kills and the Herald.
Now, while that happened, Spiller died on the Thresh in the bot lane, and the bot lane for Hydra have moved to the top lane, which has allowed Tristana to take down that first tier turret very low. However, we might see a bit of a skirmish in the jungle. It depends how well Hydra can collapse on this.
A little bit of trading there while Fiamzu is just going back to lane, and it looks like Madalife is going to be backing. One thing to note is that Mori is just not really able to contest Frenzy and Spiller here, and they are going to be able to do just a ton of damage to this turret, and it will fall.
However, Frenzy does get CC. The box will come through. Can Frenzy survive the Tristana? The bomb will tick down and the kill will land. Can Supreme get out of there? I don't think he can. He's very low, and Chosen will get the kill onto Triss. However, here Fiamzu's turned up. He's got the rift work. He's very low. Chosen will pick up the kill. Spiller, can he land a death sentence? That could really turn this. It just misses. A few pixels short, but Chosen has the dash. will keep on chasing. Oriana's nowhere near. She is dead. Van Borg is down. However, that is, I think that was 2 kills going over to both sides, and it's 8-8 in the overall kill standings.
It is pretty close, and Hydra is ahead in gold. 5,000 gold ahead, actually. And that, even though it seems to be towards Oldboys in a lot of ways, it's mostly on Yorick Mori in the top lane. So, overall, the bot lane is definitely winning for Hydra here, which could be the deciding factor in this game.
Yeah. And that gold difference is mainly on Frenzy, because he has about 60 CS advantage. And also Hydra got first blood and first turret. So that's another 600 gold that came through there. But Oldboys will once again get the first 2 drakes of the game. And this game isn't too dissimilar from game 1. Scrappy game, 2 drakes going over to Oldboys, but Hydra ahead in gold.
And with this mid tower, that's going to be falling very, very soon as well, and some little fights are breaking out, possibly looking for an opportunity here, while Madlife does take quite a bit of poke.
And that's a lot of damage coming over to Madlife, but it's just not enough. The Black Shield takes a chunk of damage from the shockwave. What a death sentence from Spiller. How did he predict that? The box comes through, but Retev Sativa cannot be slow. Supreme really low, and Van Borg will pick up the kill. Chosen trying to get a kill. Madlife is so low, so is Sativa, but that's going to be another turret falling over. We've got a 1v1 in the bot lane between Mori and Braveheart, but nothing is going to come from there. Meanwhile, we've got the sieging in the mid lane. Kennen will TP in. He'll TP straight onto a Yordle snap trap and will take a little bit of damage.
Was pretty close there, but ended up going to be pretty good for Hydra. Now they are ahead in kills. They're even further. Actually, the gold has been evened up pretty well. They're just a little bit more ahead than they were before, but nothing too crazy. And they have gotten all the way up to inhibitor turrets in the mid lane.
And look how close Madlife is. He took so much damage. 13 HP I think he went down to. The command attack followed by the dissonance did so much damage, but somehow he escapes with his life. And I feel like Oldboys have been somewhat lucky so far with quite a few close shaves.
It has been very, very close, but Madlife is going to survive. And, you know, some of that in the end just kind of comes down to luck. You can't do all of that math in your head. When it comes down to just 13 health, it could have gone very, very differently. So very lucky there being able to get away. Now that Baron is up, Oldboys, they have learned their lesson. They already have a control ward on it. They want to make sure that there isn't any sort of 2-player 20-minute Baron shenanigans happening again. And it seems like they're actually grouping up around it. Surely they are not going to be taking it themselves, but they're just making extra sure that Hydra isn't thinking about it.
So with this Baron available, who do you think has priority over it? And if we did see a fight around Baron, who would you expect to win?
I'm going to say that chances are it would be Hydra that would win, because they have the Fiora for the Grand Challenge, and if they get that off, then that is a lot of extra health. They have the box, they have the Dark Passage, so I really do think that Hydra would come out ahead in that case.
As Chosen, getting hit by the Dark Binding will be able to get back to safety. But the interesting thing here now, and the Slicing Maelstrom is through from Mori, he gets hit by the ultimate. The Glacial Prison lands. Sativa will try to escape, but he will be unable to. That's 1 kill going over each way. But importantly for Oldboys, their kill is on Frenzy.
And also, it's going to be the Sejuani that has fallen on the side of Oldboys. This means that is no Smite left, which means that they could decide to go for the Baron then at this point, and there will not be a Smite on the side of Oldboys to contest it until Repsativa is back. Looks like instead they're just going to clear the vision to maybe give Oldboys a little bit of a scare, because now they have to go back and ward it again.
And the important thing there as well was that the kill went over onto Mori. So Mori is getting stronger and stronger, and somehow he still has no bounty on him, while the Führer, who's 2-0, has 1,000 bounty on him. So can someone explain the bounty system to me? Because I would have thought it'd be the other way around here, but never mind.
Well, I think part of that is the amount of CS that Braveheart has, because the bounty system doesn't just go off kills, but also how much CS you've gotten in one life. And right now, Braveheart is sitting on 227 CS versus poor Yorick's only 140.
Yeah, almost he's almost got the Flame Horizon. But that being said, if we look at items, Kennen has 2 items plus the needlessly large rod, while Fiora hasn't completed her second item. She's going for the Trifle. She's got the Fate and the Sheen. As I think our old boys, they're going to start Baron. They've noticed that Hydra are at Drake. No, they're not. They're going to back off. So that's just going to be a free Drake going over to Hydra. I'm getting excited over nothing as usual.
Just clearing out that vision. Once again, they're just really nervous about Hydra. They want to make sure that Hydra isn't going to be going for it. But now Hydra's going to be able to just go through and wipe their vision. So just making Oldboys keep on guessing, and they're having to just pour resources into this.
As Vanborg takes a fair bit of damage. That was a really nice Dark Binding from Madlife. And then after he hit the Dark Binding, uses the W, the Tormented Soil, to start to get Barons to start attacking Vanborg. So a fair bit of damage coming off onto Vanborg, who's now just above half HP. But one thing I want to mention is, initially you had Fiora in the side lane and Yorick trying to counter it, the split push on the Kennen. But remember how earlier on I was talking about the team fight potential? You want Kennen for your team fight. That's why the not the Malzahar, that's why you now have a Kassadin in the side lane and the Kennen with the team. It's just something I wanted to point out, and I feel that it's kind of important for this entire split pushing game.
So, I mean, definitely you do want that Kennen there. The amount of stuns that it's able to put out. Looks like we may be getting a fight here in the jungle, though.
Oh, and it's a great death sentence, and it somehow finds the ADC. Supreme does get out of it, but that's a great death sentence from Spiller. They will be able to get Sativa as well now. Triple kill going over to Vanborg. Surely they can pick up the Baron now, as there is no smite available for Hydra. Not for Hydra. Sorry, go on.
The only one alive on Oldboys is the Kassadin, although the Riftwalk is available. Probably won't decide to use that to try and steal the Baron, although that may be their last hope. Actually, look at Frenzy is actually able to hit the Baron from the other side of the wall. That's pretty interesting as well. Does have quite a bit of range there. And looks like that is going to be the Baron down for Hydra. So they're going to be looking to take that middle inhibitor and push up these other towers even more. Now the inhibitor turret for the top side has been exposed as well.
And again, Hydra somehow managed to find the crucial team fight. A great death sentence from Spiller, which just I can't remember who it landed on, but it was a great death sentence, and it just turned the entire game around. He was able to go in, got the box off, gets off the flay, and that's a team fight 1. Baron, and once again, it's Baron on all 5 members. Now, in game 1, they got Baron at 20 minutes, so they didn't have the damage to really use it well. But now we're 25 minutes in the game, and expect to see that Baron buff being get much more of a Baron power play.
Just a lot more value is now available now. Rep Sativa getting seen in the jungle, but not getting caught out, is able to escape. And now it looks like they're just going to be focusing on the bot lane. So what they're doing is they're basically just going lane to lane, making sure that they're all pushed in. And it's going to really stress Oldboys out as they try to respond to everyone in turn.
Now, again, if we look at the Drakes, 2 Drakes over to Oldboys and 1 Drake over to Hydra. They both have a Cloud, so the only advantage is that Oldboys have a Ocean in advantage, as Hydra push in on this bot lane. You've got Fiora on the top lane, so Kassadin is moving over to respect that. But that's so much damage coming out from the command attack from Vanborg. It's actually disgusting. Look how much HP is taken from Madlife. And Oh, the shockwave almost kills Madlife, but the Dark Shield will save her.
I mean, they may have an Ocean Drake, but remember, they are now currently over 10,000 gold behind. They're looking at 12,000 gold behind at this point. That is a lot of gold difference, and a lot of that is on Frenzy, and a lot of that is on Braveheart, and that is allowing Braveheart to just stay up in a lane by himself, and Frenzy to just stick back behind a team and just do so much damage because of that extra range that Caitlyn has. Just one good opportunity is an insane amount of damage.
The Glacial Prison is stopped. Braveheart gets the parry off at the right time. He's in a 1v2 now. He gets CC down. He will flash. He picks up the kill. Spiller with a great death sentence once again to stop Sativa being able to get any form of outplay off. And this is going to be the third inhibitor falling. As Spiller with another death sentence. What are you? The redemption's going to come through. Spiller, can he get to the redemption in time? No, he can't. But Kennen will fall. And this is going to be game 2 and the series going over to Hydra as they will win 2-0 against Elf DK Oldboys.
That is a just really clean performance from Hydra here. You know, it was a little bit, it was a little bit strange in some places, but I think they were just very confident in their plays. They knew that they could take these risks early on, and maybe they would, even if they got a little bit behind in the early game, they knew that they'd be able to pop off later, and they absolutely did. And so let's take a very quick look at some numbers here. If we look at the kills overall, it was 18-10 in 28 minutes. And if we look at who the kills went to, Van Borg actually had the most kills at the end of that with 7, but then there was 2 with 4, 1 with 2, and then 1 person with 1. Whereas when we look at the side of Oldboys, they had 1 kill on Cassidy, they had 3 kills on Tristana, where the rest of the kills were on the Kennen, on Mori, and they needed to have more damage elsewhere. They needed to have more damage from the Tristana. They needed to have more damage on the Cassidy. They needed to have the Sejuani be able to engage better than she was, and because everything was on the Kennen, so many cards were betted on that, and it was just not what they needed in order to win.
I feel like the kills being on the Kennen means that if you had a team fight, you needed it to be on Oldboys' terms. But they were never able to get the team fight where they started the team fight, which would have allowed Mori to get the Slicing Maelstrom off, some CC, and then Sativa possibly ulting on top of that, and Tristana poking from the backline. However, the straw poll is out, and let's see who were your MVPs from both teams.
Now this is going to be pretty tough because both of them were so good, but if we're looking at, first let's start with Oldboys. So Yorick Mori had a little bit of a rough time, but was alright in the first game and did fairly well in the second game, sort of overall winning the lane in kills, but certainly not in CS, ended up 100 CS behind. And I think that's who I'm going to give it to. That was just him, and Retap Sativa were the ones that sort of stood out to me the most from Oldboys.
And is what we mentioned at the start. They are the 2 new players to Oldboys, and considering that they did play well, they're playing against second in the league Hydra. Sure, they got clean sweeped. Sure, they lost fairly fairly decisively. It was quite a clean 2-0 from Hydra, but a lot of things were promising in terms of their early game. They seem to be a team that like their skirmishes and can play well based off that. But moving on to Hydra then, who's your MVPs from those teams?
Now for Hydra, this is another pretty interesting one. Chosen had a really great first game on the Nunu and was able to team up with Frenzy and take the Baron so early on. Braveheart didn't really do so much in the first game, but did do pretty well in the second game. I think I will have to give it to Frenzy for just being able to do good work in many cases, both in the first game and in the second game, just ended up getting ahead in both of them, and providing so much overall damage became essentially impossible to deal with. Even though only had 2 kills, the amount of damage that it created made it so that Oldboys just wasn't really able to poke or even play defensively. They either had to all in or they died, and they never were able to all in, partially due to Frenzy.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on Chosen. Really good game 1, but game 2, as we mentioned, no mastery points. He doesn't have any mastery points on Zinzao, so it might have been his first time playing it. But some questionable decisions nonetheless. Braveheart, I feel, played really well in both games. He did the split pushing just as he needed to. And even though Chosen kind of semi-inted in his lane to get the cannon ahead, he still did a good job. He got the Flame Horizon, and I think he did really well. But my MVP, undoubtedly for me, goes over to Spiller. His death sentences on Thresh, in game 2, 100%. In game 1 as well, they were top notch. So
it seemed like he could hit like these really crazy ones, and then sometimes when it was just a person running in a straight line, he would overthink it and miss them. But he did hit some. He hit all the ones that he needed to.
Yeah.
The ones that he missed, chances probably wouldn't have gotten a kill out of anyway. Even if they had, then maybe. And chances are they went ahead and got the kill without the death sentence. So overall, I will have to agree, a very, very good performance.
Right. So, on that note, is there anything in particular you want to say, let's see, before we do our standard sign-off?
I don't think I do. I think it is time to wrap today up.
So, yeah, we will wrap today up then. Guys, do get involved with SRG Gaming if you look below the beautiful Twitch that our producers have so lovingly put up. You can see our Discord, our Twitter, our Facebook. You can also see when the next matches are, which the next one will be tomorrow between Lyra and Tyne Esport, and that's going to be one to watch out for, because that is going to determine who will sit at the top of the table in Division 2. So definitely watch that. But this has been Elf DK Oldboys versus Hydra, and Hydra have taken a 2-0 clean sweep. From myself and Litzy, we'll see you next time. Thanks guys very much for watching, and have a good night.